Hobos, panhandlers, beggars, whatever term you give these individuals, it's definitely something that is unexpected when you get into the trucking industry. Trucks and truckers are seen as an easy target to knock on and ask for a favor, whether that be gas, money, or even food. Getting into this industry, I had no idea how much I would be asked for things being a trucker. So without further ado, here's my top 5 hobo stories. Story 1, the veteran. For a long time as a trucker, I was a smoker, and oftentimes offered a cigarette to the individuals that were asking for a handout. 9 times out of 10, it was met with a big thank you and you're the best, and I offered them the cigarette and a light and went about my day. And about 1 in every 10 individuals that would ask for something would refuse the cigarette. My theory always was, if you're in that tough of a time, a little bit of stress relief from a cigarette would be the best thing ever. And if individuals are refusing it, really they're not going through as tough of a time as they claim. Other times I would offer some food, like some crackers or something like that I had laying around the truck. But I very rarely kept cash on the truck. This way, if I was asked, I could honestly say, I don't have any cash to give you, buddy. That was until I was on the turnpike over in Pennsylvania at a rest area pull-off. Now this is one of those toll road travel plazas that has food inside, gas, and restrooms. Well, shortly after I got parked and wasn't quite ready to go inside yet, a gentleman approached my truck wearing a veteran's hat. Now mind you, this wasn't a uniform hat, this was a hat that you could pick up just about anywhere. But nevertheless, with having the utmost respect for the veterans who serve this country, I rolled down my window to see what he had to say, and in typical beggar fashion, the gentleman asked if I had a couple of dollars to spare. Now this was one of the few times that I actually had a singular dollar bill in my wallet, so I offered it to him. Hey bud, all I got is $1 in my pocket, but it's yours if you want it. And to my surprise, the response was mind-boggling. The gentleman said, what am I gonna do with $1? That won't even buy me a cheeseburger. I said, I'm sorry, but that's all I got to offer you. You can take it if you want it. If not, find somebody else to give you some money. And the gentleman never even took that dollar bill. And I got to thinking afterwards, if you're in a tight enough spot to need some money, why on earth would you refuse $1? Because the old saying goes, if you ask 1,000,000 people for $1, you'll have $1,000,000. So that $1 could have turned into 2, 3, 5, 10, and then you have enough to go and buy yourself a meal. But the audacity of this man had me stumped for a very long time. Story 2, extra crunchy. As a truck driver, you could be approached by a bunch of different types of individuals. Different skin colors, different backgrounds, different appearances in general. And it's totally up to you to be generous or to ignore these individuals. Now overall, I try to lean towards the side of generosity because I never know what somebody has gone through to land them in a position to ask a trucker for something. So when I was driving through Atlanta in some slow traffic going across an overpass and seen a gentleman walking by with a sign in his hand, I decided that I would offer him the only thing that I had available to me. And at the time, all I had was a pack of sunflower seeds. To be more specific, the ranch flavor, because those are hands down the best. Argue with me in the comments. So I rolled my window down, waved the gentleman over, and handed him that blue sleeve of sunflower seeds. Feeling good about myself doing something generous, helping somebody out, I looked down at the gentleman to see his response. And the man looked at the package of sunflower seeds, looked up at me, looked at the package of sunflower seeds again, and gave me the biggest smile he could possibly muster. And I was feeling really good about myself until I noticed that the gentleman only had 1 tooth. Just then the traffic started rolling again and I had to be on my way. But I always wondered, had this gentleman ever been able to crack those shells to get to the meaty center of the sunflower seed? I guess I'll never know. Story 3, the cleaner. Now it's pretty common knowledge as a truck driver, if you don't want to be bothered, don't sit in the driver's seat for too long after you park. Either go inside and handle some business in there, or go back to the sleeper berth and close the curtains. Because generally, if a potential beggar were to see that there was nobody sitting in the driver's seat, they're not going to knock on the door and bother the truck. That said, I had just parked for a 30-minute break at the Pilot in Jackson, Mississippi. About 2 minutes after being parked, I was approached by a gentleman. Not wanting to be rude, I rolled down the window and asked him what's up. He said, hey man, is there any way I could clean your tires or clean your tanks? I'm just looking to make some extra money and anything would help. It would be great if you'd let me clean your truck. I said, buddy, this is a company truck and I'm really not concerned about how shiny the rims are. So unfortunately, I don't really need the work, but if you'd like, I'd give you a bottle of water. So he said, thanks man, and took the bottle of water and went on his way. So when he walked away, I went ahead and went to the sleeper berth to relax on my 30-minute break. About 10 minutes had passed and I heard a knock at the door. So I climbed out of the sleeper berth, rolled down the window, and who do I see? The same gentleman from 10 minutes prior. And he said, hey man, I got great news. Somebody gave me a job. I'm like, oh, great, dude, that's awesome. Well done. I hope that works out for you. He said, well, here's the problem. I don't have any spray or rags to clean this guy's tires. Do you happen to have any spray? And internally, I'm laughing hysterically, but I told the gentleman, no, unfortunately, I don't have the cleaning supplies that you need to do a job that you're offering. But like, who goes around and offers to do a job and isn't prepared with the right materials to do said job? But nevertheless, the gentleman said thanks anyway and went along his way, and I had never found out whether or not he got to get the job done or not. Story 4. Home sweet home. So a little bit about me. I grew up about 45 minutes east of Chicago in a small town in Indiana. And when I first started driving, you were required to team with another driver for 40,000 miles. And they counted all the miles to the truck, so being that you were a team operation, each individual would have to do approximately 20,000 miles. And that could take anywhere from 8 to 10 months. So whoever you were partnered with, you were guaranteed to either be really close with or end up hating by the end of those miles. Lucky for me, I got teamed up with a guy named Jeremy. And me and Jeremy are still really good friends to this day. And Jeremy lived just north of Chicago, so we were relatively close in distance. This made it pretty easy when we decided to take home time because we weren't terribly far away from each other. Well, one of the times that we had gone to work together, he wanted to take his car. Now, the company that I worked for was out of Kentucky, so it was about a 6-hour drive from where we were located down to the terminal. And being that he had drove his car when we were headed back home, we had to take his car back as well. So we had been working non-stop team driving for a couple of months, and we were both ready for a break, so we decided to take some home time. Jeremy looked over to me and said, "Man, I am so ready for some home time. I'm ready to get back home, get back in the Chicago area." "Yeah, man, me too. We've been out on the road for quite a while. It's going to be nice to take a little bit of time off and relax." He said, "I know when we'll be close to home because when we stop to get some gas, somebody's going to approach me and ask me for some money. Now, I'm going to turn them down, but I'll be super excited because I know I'm really close to home." And I kind of just laughed it off, thinking there's no way like you can predict that somebody's going to ask you for money when we're close to the Chicago area. But the plan was he was going to drop me off at the Loves in Gary, Indiana, and I was going to get a ride from a family member. And he was going to carry on his way in his own car back home. So after several hours of driving, we finally made it to the Loves and pulled up to a gas pump to get some gas before he headed back home. While I was gathering my stuff, getting ready to go inside and wait for my ride, he was getting ready to go inside and get himself a drink. Well, sure enough, as we were starting to walk in, a gentleman started walking towards us. Once they got into talking distance, the gentleman was asking Jeremy for some money. And I looked over at Jeremy, he looked back at me and gave me the biggest smile he could muster because he knew he was super close to home. And to this day, I have no clue how he predicted that so perfectly, but it ended up working out. On to the final story, the hippies. Over-the-road truckers run anywhere between 300 and 700 miles per day. This means that the trucks burn through a ton of fuel, and almost every day you have to fill up and put fuel in the truck. Now, fueling a truck isn't quite the same as fueling a car. Semi-trucks have tanks on both sides of the truck. And even with the larger nozzles, it still takes about 15 minutes for the truck to get completely full. So when I was getting fuel, I would generally wash the windows of the truck, clear out any trash that I had collected, and once I was completed with that, generally the pump was almost done and the nozzle would click. But on this fill up, I didn't have any trash, so I got done a little bit sooner. And all you could do at that point is wait. So as I was waiting, I was approached by a gentleman with long hair, baggy clothes, more bracelets and necklaces than I could even count. And you know, when you look at somebody, you automatically start to form an opinion in your head of what this person's like. And sometimes that prediction can be completely wrong, but in this case, it was spot on. I was dealing with a hippie. He came up to me and asked me, "Hey man, is there any way that you can put some diesel in my gas can here, man?" And unfortunately, I wasn't the one paying for the fuel. So without permission for the company, I didn't feel comfortable stealing from the company to give to this gentleman. Now, some people might say it's the company's money, who cares? But in my opinion, my job's worth more than being generous on somebody else's dime. So I politely declined and he went on his way. After a couple of minutes, the nozzles clicked and I was done fueling. Well, I had needed to run inside to get something, but proper trucker etiquette is to not park in the fuel island, go find somewhere to park and walk inside. So that's exactly what I did. Well, it just so happened that I got to get the spot right next to the hippies. And I'm not joking when I tell you this bus was colorful. This bus looked like it had just been afloat in the Gay Pride Parade. This thing looked like it had actually tasted the rainbow, something directly manufactured by Crayola Crayon. And all the hippies inside were going around to the different pumps, asking drivers for a little bit of diesel so they can carry on with their journey. And that's my top 5 hobo stories. But I want to hear from you. What's the most interesting encounter you've had with somebody begging? What do you do when somebody asks you for something? Do you offer to help or do you send them on their way? Leave it all down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and share with your friends. All right? Bye.